The award night nobody saw coming. The lights were blinding, the music grand. Inside the massive Golden Dome in Los Angeles, the biggest names in Hollywood had gathered. Red carpets shimmered, cameras flashed, and voices whispered judgments like, "Wind through dry leaves." On this night, Ana de Armas had been nominated for her first major award, Best Actress in a Drama. It should have been her moment. But in the corners, in the green rooms, and even among the press, there was another story being told. "She's just a pretty face," a popular host whispered loudly enough for others to hear. "That's why she's here, not because of talent." Others laughed quietly, pretending not to agree but not defending her either. Keanu Reeves heard it. He was standing just a few feet away, waiting for his turn on stage to present a different award. His face didn't change, but inside him, something stirred. He had known Ana for years. He had seen her struggles, the way she cried after failed auditions, the times she stayed behind in empty studios practicing scenes long after others had gone home. She was not just a pretty face. She was a force that refused to quit. Ana walked. In just then, dressed in a soft silver gown, her eyes shining. Not because of makeup, but because this night meant something to her. She had worked for this. She had bled for it, silently, away from the cameras. The moment she stepped onto the carpet, a group of critics turned to her with forced smiles and shallow compliments. One reporter leaned toward her mic and said, "Ana, how does it feel to be nominated mostly for your beauty?" Ana froze. For a second her lips parted, searching for a polite way out. But before she could answer, Keanu stepped forward. He didn't grab the mic. He didn't raise his voice. He simply stood beside her and said in a calm, clear tone that silenced everyone, "If beauty got people this far, we wouldn't need talent. And trust me, I've watched this woman act with more depth, more pain, and more courage than most people here tonight." A hush fell over the crowd. The reporter's face turned pale. Ana looked at Keanu, stunned. He didn't smile for the cameras or wait for applause. He just nodded at her and stepped back. Later, behind the curtains, Ana sat alone. Her fingers trembled as she held her clutch. She wasn't crying because of the insult. She was crying because someone had stood up for her. Not with rage, but with truth. She had grown used to being dismissed. When she first arrived in Hollywood, she barely spoke English. Directors laughed at her accent. Some called it too distracting. Agents told her to wait for roles that needed exotic looks instead of leading parts. She often felt like a prop, not a person. But something changed that night. Keanu's words had gone viral within minutes. On Twitter, fans called him a silent sword of truth. Actors who had worked with Ana came forward, sharing stories of her discipline, her preparation, and her heart. Still, even as the public praised her, the pain inside Ana didn't go away so easily. She had been told, too many times, she wasn't enough, and worse, that she was only something to look at, not someone to listen to. The award ceremony continued. When Ana's category came, everyone held their breath. She sat between two actresses who had won before. Her nails dug into her palm as the presenter opened the envelope. And the award for Best Actress in a Drama goes to a beat. Ana de Armas. For a moment, she didn't move. She thought she had misheard. Then slowly, she stood up. The claps were loud. Even those who had mocked her earlier were now smiling as if they had always believed in her. But her eyes scanned the room for only one face, Keanu's. He was standing near the side of the stage, out of the spotlight, clapping softly. Not for attention, not for credit, just because he believed in her. Ana took the stage. The lights were hot, the crowd a blur. She held the trophy in her hand and stared at it for a second too long. Then she looked straight into the camera and said, "For years, I was told I needed to be more, to look less, to sound different. Tonight I realize being myself was enough. and to the man who reminded me of that. Thank you. Her voice cracked on the last word, but she didn't hide it. Keanu looked down. In that moment, thousands watching at home felt something shift. It wasn't just an award show anymore. It was a reminder. That kindness in a single moment could rewrite someone's story. And Keanu had done just that. Not with a grand speech, not with money or power, just with words that told the truth. What no one knew yet was that this moment would spark something bigger. The cameras had only captured one sentence, but behind the scenes, something deeper was unfolding, something that would test Ana's strength and Keanu's loyalty in ways neither of them expected. Behind the applause faded. The lights dimmed, and the crowd moved on, as it always did. But Ana de Armas didn't move. She stood quietly backstage, holding her award tightly, as if afraid it might disappear. For everyone else, the night was already shifting to the next winner, the next viral moment. For Ana, it was the end of a long storm, but peace didn't come. After the ceremony, her team pulled her in all directions. Reporters wanted interviews. Designers wanted her in their next gowns. Producers handed over scripts and promises. But, through it all, her mind was stuck on that one sentence, the one Keanu had spoken before the whole world. I've watched this woman act with more depth, more pain, and more courage than most people here tonight. He hadn't said it to win praise. He hadn't said it to make a point. He had said it because it was real, and that truth had shaken something inside her. Later that night, she found herself sitting alone in her hotel room. The award stood on the table. Champagne had gone warm. The room was quiet, but her heart wasn't. She picked up her phone, staring at Keanu's name in her messages. Her fingers hovered over the screen. Finally, she typed, "Thank you. Not just for tonight, for everything." She didn't expect a reply. He wasn't the kind to respond with long texts or smiley faces. But he did. "You earned this," I just reminded them. Simple, honest, and enough to bring tears back to her eyes. But just as the night seemed to settle, her phone buzzed again, this time from her manager. "You're trending everywhere," he said excitedly. "Interviews want to focus on what?" Keanu said. "They're calling it the moment of the year. Can we book you for Good Morning America, Ellen, and maybe a sit-down with Vogue?" Ana hesitated. "What about my work, the film, the role I won this for?" "They'll get to that. But this is hotter right now. The world loves your friendship with Keanu. Ride the wave, Ana." Trust me, Ana hung up without promising anything. She didn't want to ride a wave based on someone else's words. She wanted her work to matter. But the world had already decided. Articles popped up with titles like, "Keanu saves the night with one sentence." Ana's beauty called out. Keanu's answer breaks the internet. From Bond girl to Best Actress, and the man who stood by her. Even though some pieces praised her talent, many focused more on Keanu's support than her own achievement. It was as if her victory had been borrowed from his kindness, days past. At first, she did some interviews. She smiled through questions about her close bond with Keanu. She nodded politely when hosts played the viral clip again and again. But inside, something started to ache. It was quiet at first, then louder. She had finally won, finally broken through. But instead of being seen as a woman who had fought her way to the top, she was once again just a headline tied to a man. She met Keanu for lunch in a quiet rooftop cafe a few days later. It was private, just the way he liked things. He greeted her with a soft smile. "Congratulations, again." She sat down, holding her coffee. "Feels like I'm being congratulated for something else," she said quietly. He looked at her, waiting. "It's like, my whole career is now tied to a sentence you said. A beautiful sentence. An honest one. But still, it's yours. Keanu didn't interrupt. He let her finish. I want to be respected for my work, Keanu, not just for the way someone stood up for me. He nodded slowly. And you should be. But you can't control what others choose to notice first. What you can control is what you do next. What I do next? You show them your depth. Not by talking about it, by living it, every role, every choice. Every time you show up when others doubt you. She looked down. I'm just tired of being misunderstood. Then let them keep misunderstanding while you keep moving forward. One day, they'll catch up. And if they don't, who cares? Ana laughed softly. His calm was contagious. She sipped her coffee and leaned back. You always make things feel simple. Keanu smiled faintly. Things are simple. People just complicate them. A silence settled between them. It wasn't awkward, it was comforting, but neither of them knew what was waiting around the corner because somewhere across town, a leaked video had just hit the internet. It showed a private rehearsal from Ana's early days, where a casting director mocked her accent on camera. The clip was raw, humiliating, and it ended with her crying quietly in the corner of a studio. Someone had held onto it for years. And now they had released it. Within hours, it was everywhere. Headlines screamed, "Old video of Ana de Armas being humiliated resurfaces." Proof of how Hollywood really treated Ana. The public was outraged. Fans cried. Actors tweeted support. But Ana, she was frozen. She hadn't seen that video in years. She had buried that memory, locked it away so she could keep moving. And now it was out for everyone to watch. Keanu called her. She didn't answer. He texted, "You don't have to face this alone." But she didn't respond, because for the first time since she arrived in Hollywood, she felt truly exposed. The strength she had built, the walls she had constructed, all cracked. She sat in her room, hugging a pillow, the TV playing the clip over and over again. Voices from the past echoed in her head. "You don't belong here. Lose the accent. You're lucky to be pretty." Keanu was right. What mattered was what she did next. But for the moment, all she could do was cry. And somewhere in the silence of that dark room, a decision began forming in her heart. Not out of rage, not for revenge, but for something deeper. She would not let the world define her anymore. But first, she had to face her past. The voice she never used. Ana didn't leave her apartment for 3 days. The video played again and again on news channels and social media. She tried not to watch it, but her mind filled in every frame even with her eyes closed. In that old clip, she sat alone on the floor of a dusty rehearsal studio, holding a printed script. Her Spanish accent was thicker then, and every time she read a line, the man behind the camera chuckled cruelly. No, no, no. Say it like an American. Do you even understand what you're saying? A younger Ana had nodded and tried again. He laughed louder. You sound like a soap opera villain. Come back when you sound like someone we can cast. Then the video ended. But the real moment hadn't. After the camera shut off, she remembered sitting there, wiping silent tears, pretending she wasn't broken. That memory lived deep in her, a scar she never thought would be exposed. And now, everyone could see it. By the 4th day, her phone had hundreds of unread messages. Actors, journalists, fans. Some offered support. Some wanted interviews. Others just wanted to say they were sorry for laughing at her back then. But she didn't want pity. She didn't want people to look at her like a wounded animal. She wanted to speak. She picked up her phone and finally replied to one message. Keanu's. I need to do something. Can you help me? Within an hour, he arrived at her place. No cameras, no security, just him. She opened the door and didn't say a word. She didn't have to. He understood. They sat on her balcony as the city glowed beneath them. The air was heavy, not with smog, but with all the words she hadn't said. They're calling me brave, she said at last. But I didn't choose for that video to come out. I didn't speak up. I just endured it. Keanu shook his head. Sometimes survival is the loudest kind of bravery. I want to speak now, with my own voice. I want people to hear me, not just feel bad for me. He listened carefully. Then speak. Your way, not theirs. That night, Ana recorded a video on her own phone. No makeup, no fancy lighting, no script. Just her, in a soft hoodie, sitting on her couch. Her voice was quiet, but steady. Many of you saw a video of me crying years ago. It hurt to watch it again, but what hurt more is knowing that, back then, I believed what he said. I thought maybe I didn't belong. Maybe I should hide my voice, my past, my accent. I even tried to erase the parts of me that didn't fit the perfect image they wanted. But not anymore. This is my voice. It carries stories, memories, and a language that raised me. It will never be perfect, but it will always be mine. To anyone who has ever been told you're not enough, you are. And to the young woman in that video, sitting on that floor with tears in her eyes, I see you now, and I'm proud of you. She posted it without overthinking, and then she waited. Within minutes, it went viral. Fans flooded the comments with support. Other actors began sharing their own stories, not about fame, but about humiliation, rejection, and starting over. A young Mexican actress wrote, "I almost quit last year because of my accent. This video changed everything for me." A filmmaker messaged her privately, "We need voices like yours, not filtered, not polished, real." The next morning, Ana woke up to a message from a quiet but powerful name in the industry, Sofia Morales, a reclusive director known for making deeply personal films. "I watched your video 3 times, it read. "I have a script. It's about a woman finding her voice in a world that keeps silencing her. I think you were born for it." Ana held the phone for a long time before replying. She knew this role wouldn't be like the others. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't a box office magnet. It was honest. Raw. Keanu met her later that evening. "She offered you the role?" Ana nodded. "She said it's mine if I want it. But there's a catch." "What is it?" "She wants me to use my real voice, the accent, the rhythm, everything." Keanu smiled gently. "And what do you want?" Ana thought about it. She looked out at the city, the same city that once tried to erase her, and she whispered, "I want to stop apologizing for who I am." He nodded. "Then say yes." And she did. The press had a field day. Ana takes on bold new role that mirrors real life. Director Sofia Morales teams with Ana de Armas for powerful new drama. But Ana didn't do press tours this time. She didn't give long interviews. She just showed up on set day after day, with a script in one hand and her truth in the other. The first scene they shot was a confrontation, her character standing in front of a casting director who told her she'd never make it. She didn't need to act. She lived that pain once. But now, she turned it into fire. The crew stood silent after the take. The director wiped a tear from her cheek. Someone whispered, "We've never seen her like this." Keanu visited the set on the 3rd week of filming. He stood quietly behind the cameras, watching her work. He didn't need to say anything. She saw him, smiled, and kept going. Because this time, she wasn't just fighting to prove something. She was becoming the woman that young girl on the studio floor had dreamed of becoming. And the world was finally listening. Fire on screen. Fire within. The first time Ana watched herself on screen in Sofia Morales' film. She couldn't speak. The scene showed her standing in a dark hallway, facing a mirror. In the film, her character had just been humiliated in front of a room full of people. Her makeup was smudged, her eyes were swollen. She didn't say a word. She just looked at herself. Her chin trembled. Her hands slowly reached for her own face, not to fix anything, but to accept it. It wasn't a performance. It was a reflection. Ana had lived those moments, not once, but many times. The mirror scene had been shot on the second day of filming, and when Sophia called cut, no one on set moved for a while. Even the sound guy had tears in his eyes. But seeing it now, months later in a private screening room, was different. Ana turned to Sophia. "Do you think people will get it?" Sophia nodded. "Not all of them. But the ones who need it most, they'll feel it." And they did. When the film premiered at the Venice Film Festival, it didn't come with fireworks or a giant marketing team. It came quietly, with truth. The audience gave it a standing ovation. Ana didn't cry that night. She didn't smile too much either. She just stood still, feeling the applause. Not as a celebration of her fame, but as recognition of her truth. Then came the real storm. Some critics called the film brave. Others called it too raw. A few said, Ana exposes more than most would ever dare. But not all reviews were kind. One famous critic wrote, "She's emotional, yes, but perhaps too emotional. Her accent still distracts." Those words cut deep. Not because they were new, but because they echoed old scars. Even now, after everything, some still chose to see the surface. But this time, Ana didn't hide. She didn't go quiet. She posted a photo of herself from the movie, barefaced, tear-stained, and strong, with one line, "This is what truth looks like. It may not be perfect, but it's mine." The post exploded online. Messages poured in from around the world. Young girls, struggling actors, single mothers, immigrants. They all saw themselves in her. Not the polished version on red carpets, but the real one who dared to be seen as she was. Keanu was filming in New York when the movie hit theaters, but he found a quiet evening between shoots and went to watch it alone in a small, local cinema. He sat in the back, wearing a cap, unnoticed by most. When the movie ended, the credits rolled silently. A woman in front of him wiped her eyes and whispered to her friend, "I didn't know she went through all that." Keanu smiled quietly. That night, he sent Ana a message. "I just watched the film. You didn't act. You lived. Proud of you." Ana replied, "Thank you for giving me the courage to start." But even as the film gained attention, something darker began brewing behind the scenes. A few producers, the same ones who once rejected Ana, were now circling back. They didn't like that her fame had grown outside their control. They didn't like that she had spoken against their system. One night her manager called in a panic. "Ana, there's pressure to pull your movie from a few theaters. One studio executive says you're becoming difficult. There's talk about freezing you out of future roles." Ana felt her throat tighten. For what? Telling the truth. They say you're too political now, too emotional, too real. She hung up. For a few hours, fear returned. That same fear from her early days, the fear of being pushed out, of being unwanted. But she didn't stay in that place for long, because this time she had something she didn't have back then. Support. Not just from Keanu, not just from fans, but from people who mattered. A few days later, she got a call from a young female director, Mia Chang. "Ana, I saw your film. I wrote something and I can't think of anyone else for the lead. It's about a woman who changes an entire industry by refusing to stay silent." Ana laughed softly. "That sounds dangerous." Mia replied, "It is, but you've already started it. Now finish it." Ana signed onto the project, but this time she had one condition. She wanted to produce it too. The story was bold. It called out the powerful. It honored the forgotten. It gave voice to the silenced. As the film moved into production, Keanu came to visit the set one day. He watched a scene where Ana's character stood before a boardroom of executives and said, "You won't silence me again. I'm not asking for permission. I'm taking back my place." After the take, Keanu approached her quietly. "You know this is going to make waves." Ana nodded. "Good, let it." He looked at her proud. "You're not the girl on the studio floor anymore. She smiled. No, I'm the woman building a new studio. The studio lights around them flickered back on. The crew prepared for the next scene. And as Ana walked back into frame, her shoulders straight, her eyes fierce, everyone on set could feel it. She wasn't just acting anymore. She was leading. When silence becomes power, the room fell silent when Ana walked in. Not because of fear, not because of fame, but because people could feel the weight she carried, and the strength with which she carried it. It was the first production meeting for the new film she was co-producing. Directors, editors, designers, and actors sat around the long wooden table. Some were veterans of the industry. Others were fresh voices still finding their place. But every eye followed her as she took the seat at the head of the table. Ana looked at them, really looked. Not to judge, not to impress, but to see them as equals. Then she spoke, and her voice was clear, soft, and strong. This story isn't just mine. It's all of ours. I want truth in every scene, not perfection. Truth. If you feel afraid, that's okay. We're doing something important. No one replied. They only nodded. For years, Ana had been told how to stand, how to smile, what to say. Now, for the first time, she was the one guiding others, not with control, but with care. Later that day, while walking through the unfinished set, she stopped at the sight of a young background actor. The girl looked nervous, clutching a marked-up script, rehearsing lines under her breath. Ana walked over and asked, "First role?" The girl nodded quickly, startled. "Yes, and I don't want to mess it up." Ana smiled warmly. "Then you won't. Just tell the truth. Forget the cameras." "Just say what's real," the girl blinked. "You're really talking to me?" Ana touched her arm gently. "I was you once. Don't forget that." That moment didn't make headlines. No paparazzi snapped it. But it meant more than any award, because Ana remembered the pain of being unseen as production continued. Pressure from outside mounted. The studios that once tried to silence her now offered contracts laced with fake support. Interviews tried to spin her story. One popular magazine requested a cover shoot, but only if they could retouch her voice in the promotional video. Ana refused. She wrote a public post instead. "You can't edit my truth. If that means fewer covers, so be it. But I won't erase my voice to make you comfortable." The post sparked a wave of reactions. Some praised her. Others accused her of being difficult again. But Ana didn't respond. She had learned that silence, when chosen, could be more powerful than shouting. And in her silence, she was building something stronger. Keanu flew in the night before the film's teaser was set to release. He met Ana in the small editing room where she had been reviewing final cuts for hours. She looked tired, but not broken. Never broken. He leaned against the wall, watching her with quiet pride. "You've changed things," he said. She didn't turn from the screen. "No. I've just shown people what needed to be seen. And in doing that, you gave them permission to do the same." Ana finally turned and met his eyes. "Do you think it's enough?" He stepped closer. "It doesn't have to be enough today. It just has to begin." The next morning, the teaser dropped. No explosions. No overproduced music, just voices. Real ones. Layered over images of women, men, and children. All different. All struggling to be heard. The final shot was Ana, sitting in a chair, looking into the camera with tired eyes and saying just 4 words. "I won't be quiet." The internet lit up. Not with noise, but with emotion. Hashtag spread. Real voices. Not just a pretty face. An unfiltered wave of stories followed. People in offices, students, artists, immigrants, all telling their own truths. Some cried, some shouted, others just whispered. But they all said the same thing. "Thank you." Meanwhile, back in the heart of Hollywood, things started shifting. Casting directors, once blind to accents, began holding open calls for diverse roles. Writers who had been ignored were now getting calls. The old system wasn't gone, but it was no longer unshakable, and at the center of it was a woman who once sat on the floor of a rehearsal room, crying in silence. Ana stood now, not on red carpets, but in classrooms, in small theaters, on podcasts, where she told her story not as a victim, but as someone who survived, grew, and changed the rules. During a small press event, a young reporter asked her, "If you could go back in time and talk to the girl in that leaked video, what would you say?" Ana paused. The room leaned in. "I'd tell her to hold on, because the pain isn't the end. It's just the place where your strength begins." The room was silent for a long time after that, and somewhere in that stillness, Ana realized something important. She didn't need to fight for a seat at someone else's table anymore. She was building her own. Her name in every voice, the night of the premiere was nothing like before. There were no gold carpets, no giant brands, no fireworks. Instead, it was held in a restored community theater in downtown Los Angeles, a place where struggling artists once begged for a stage. Now, they had one. Ana walked in quietly, wearing a simple black dress. No designer logos, no diamonds, just honesty in every thread. She didn't come to impress. She came to remember. Inside, the lights were low. The audience was not made of stars, but of students, small filmmakers, immigrant families, dreamers, people who had been told again and again that they didn't belong. This night was for them. As the film began, silence filled the room. The screen flickered to life, showing a young girl sitting at a casting table, being told she didn't have the voice to lead. Her shoulders dropped, her eyes fell. But as the story moved forward, so did she, rising with each wound, standing taller with each rejection, building strength from every scar. The character was fictional, but everyone knew. This was Ana's story. By the time the final scene arrived, the character standing before a packed room, speaking her truth in her native accent, without shame, there wasn't a single dry eye in the audience. And when the lights came on, the room stood as one. No one clapped for fame. They clapped for freedom. Keanu stood at the back of the room unnoticed. He didn't want to be seen. He only came to witness something rare. A voice once doubted, now echoing through hearts across the world. Ana stepped onto the small stage after the film. She didn't hold a microphone. She didn't have a speech. She just spoke. "Thank you for listening. For many years I was told to change my voice, to hide it, to be softer, quieter, less me. But I learned something. My voice, with all its cracks and accents, is not a weakness. It's my story. This movie isn't just about one woman. It's about everyone who's ever been told they don't belong. If you have ever been made to feel small, you are not alone. And your story matters." The crowd didn't cheer wildly. They didn't need to. They just stood in a quiet, powerful unity that said more than words ever could. A few weeks later, the film was released globally. It wasn't a blockbuster, but it broke records for audience engagement. It was taught in film schools, shared in classrooms, played in refugee centers, women's shelters, and art programs around the world. The Academy Awards came and went that year. Ana was nominated again, Best Actress, Best Original Script, Best Film, but she didn't attend. Instead, she spent the evening at a small art center in her hometown in Cuba, where she sat with young girls learning to act, helping them rehearse their first lines. Someone asked her, "Aren't you supposed to be in Hollywood tonight?" She smiled gently and replied, "This is where my Hollywood began." Keanu visited her a few weeks later. They sat under the stars by a small fire as waves crashed softly nearby. "You've changed so much," he said. She shook her head. "I didn't change. I just stopped hiding." He looked at her with quiet pride. "The world's louder now. But it's louder with truth, she nodded. And it's not just my voice anymore. It's hundreds, thousands, maybe millions. They're all speaking now. And that's what matters. He raised a glass of tea in the firelight. To every voice that refused to be quiet. Ana raised hers too, to the girl who was never just a pretty face. In the distance, laughter rang out. Young girls played in the sand, acting out scenes from her movie, mimicking her voice, copying her strength. And somewhere inside her, that little girl who once cried on the floor of a studio smiled for the first time in years. Because now, when they said her name, they said it with respect.